Hello everyone. It's been about 4 years since I finished building the base that's behind me, and I'm about ready to take it apart and do a little bit of tweaking on it. It's held up quite well. One of the best builds I've done, actually. However, there are a few flaws, and I've learned a few techniques, and I want to kind of correct those flaws. So I'm going to start by sanding down some edges, trying to get the burst to look a little bit better, and try to correct some finishing issues that I've had before. Originally, when I finished this guitar, I used lacquer, and for some reason, I don't know why, but the lacquer has cracked in many places. The same thing happened on the body. But I sanded the lacquer off and did a Danish oil finish. But because of the Danish oil finish, I had a hard time getting the burst to look right, and the burst has been chipping off. So I found another product that I think might fix that. I do like the Danish oil finish. I may end up keeping that, but I may end up doing something different. There's also a flaw right here in the finish that I want to try to correct. So the fretboard turned out quite nice, but I do want to do some more fret work and try to polish the frets up a little bit better and round them over a little bit better. But everything else on the fretboard I want to leave alone. And the back of the bass I couldn't be more pleased with. So I basically don't want to touch the back. Everything turned out quite nice on it. So I'll probably just stick with Danish oil, that way I'm not going to mess with that finish on the back at all. So here goes nothing. One of the reasons I chose the bridge that I did is it's so easy to install and remove the strings. And because I've taken all the strings off, I'm going to loosen that truss rod up some. Take that pressure off the neck. We'll get all of the pressure off. And then I'll just, when everything's back together, I'll just do another setup on it. So now we could probably see a little bit better how that lacquer just cracked so badly. I'm going to try to, before I go any farther in tearing down, I'm going to see if I can't fix that first. I have some sandpaper soaking. I'm going to start with just a little bit of light sanding with 400 grit. You can still see some of the cracks, so some more sanding is needed. However, I'm a little bit encouraged because a lot of the cracks are now gone. And this finish has been curing for 4 years, so I'm pretty confident if I can sand the cracks off, then I can repolish that lacquer and it'll look okay. We'll see what happens. The 400 grit paper has not been removing as much material as I hoped it would. So I'm going to go to 220 grit, see if I can't get that material removed quicker. I'm not terribly worried about it because if I do happen to sand all the way through, then I'll just sand it down to bare wood and completely refinish the headstock. I'll just have to figure out another way to do the logo because the people that made the logo for me are no longer in business. It worked quite well. There are a few little cracks left, but now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to be somewhat satisfied with it, to the point where I don't want to risk damaging the finish. There's a little bit of, got down a little bit thin around the edge, but I'm going to reburst that anyhow. It's not going to be a problem. So I'm going to go back to the 400, see if I can clean it up, and then I'll make a decision after that. On the finish, it's nice and smooth now. I can reblend that stain And because it's a Danish oil finish, it should be able to blend the finish right back in. So I don't feel the need to take the whole guitar apart. The next area I'm going to tackle is right there where you can actually see the joint of the wood. You can actually feel it when you run your hand across it. So I'm actually going to take a random orbit sander and sand that smooth. And then I'll take an airbrush and redo the burst. I decided to go ahead and take the bridge off because the burst will interfere with the location of the bridge. I also removed the output jack cover. I put a little bit of tape over there to keep the output jack safe. Everything else I can just tape off. I think we'll be fine. So grab the random orbit sander and smoothen this ridge out. Nice and smooth now and even. Now I just grab some sandpaper and hand sand it to blend it in, and then I'll be ready for bursting. So now it's time to add some stain. Using red oak stain. Hopefully this will blend right in. That's the color stain that I used originally. Run it around. Of course, I don't expect it to match on the burst edges. Swipe it off and see how it works, how it looks. Oh yeah, it's a good blend. It's a good blend. More coats and this should be perfect. Very pleased with the blend of the stain. So the next step, after the stain dries, will be bursting the edges. Okay, it's all taped up. Ready to start bursting the edges. So this is the product that I'm going to try. It's a polyshade stain and polyurethane mix. And I'm going to try to airbrush the edges of the guitar to try to get that burst look. The burst is looking good so far. We'll see how it looks tomorrow. I'm very pleased with how the burst turned out. So it's time to start putting this thing back together. And it's all put back together. Now it's time to put some strings on it. Very happy with how everything turned out. Bursted edge looks great. The repaired finish looks great. The polished frets turned out nicely. And the headstock is no longer cracked. I would say it's a success. Time to stick some strings back on. I mentioned earlier why I bought this type of a bridge. I'm reusing the same strings I took off. Literally just drop them in, grab the other end, and just drop it in, and voila, string is installed. And then you just snug it up prior to tuning. I absolutely love this setup. All tuned up. I could not be happier. This bass was just a project. I built it out of red oak that I bought from Lowe's, and just wanted to see how it would function. I built it back in 2016, now 2020, so I've had 4 years of playing with it. It's proven to be a very stable bass, stays in tune exceptionally well. Sounds great with the Bartolini pickups, and it's been extremely stable and very dependable. I just wanted to fix a couple of the flaws in the build, and I could not be happier with how this turned out. So I'm going to give it a few days. We'll check the neck and get it adjusted up just right, and we'll go from there.